the rate at which black children were being sent to these schools was pretty shocking.
When I was told that there were schools for the educationally subnormal called ESN schools, my immediate reaction was, what? What are you talking about? I'd never heard about this thing before. I noted ESN schools had a higher percentage of black kids than I considered normal given the demographics of the boroughs from which they came. And also, I saw too many kids that were clearly average intelligence or even above average.
They thought that their inability to speak the Queen's English, as they used to call it, was because they were thick and unintelligent, as distinct from the fact that they were speaking a different language.
When I used tests with children, one found that children didn't understand the words that were asked of them. For example, when children were asked, what's a tap? They couldn't describe it, they couldn't define it. I felt he must be able to say this, to say what this is. It's something that is used in the West Indies. It must have a name.
In fact, there was no reason why West Indian children should have known what the word tap means, because in parts of the Caribbean, a tap was known as a pipe.
Fortunately, there was a tap in the very room in which I was testing, and I walked across the room and I said, well, what is this? And the child said, a pipe. They knew what a pipe was, which was the same concept. That meant that on tests, they were made to feel inferior when they realized that many of the items that were asked of them they could not clearly define.
Cultural bias and language misunderstandings go a long way to explaining why the IQ scores of newly arrived immigrant children seem so low. And in fact, one study showed that after black children had a chance to become acclimatised to Britain, their IQs fell within the same average range as their white peers. It also concluded that differences in IQ results between populations were primarily the result of educational environment and not brain potential dictated by factors like race.
Black kid is 4 times more likely to be wrongly placed in an ESN school than a white kid. In other words, there were 4 times as many black children in ESN schools who should not have been there as there were white working class kids who also should not have been there. The ratio was 4 to 1. The reaction of the establishment was very interesting. The leading educationalist in the ILEA appeared on television with me, and the line was, it's all rubbish, it's all lies. So right there on the program, I quoted the statistics and said, this is your own report. Are you saying that everything you all wrote and kept hidden are lies?
Then obviously 5 years from now, you can throw your hands up in the air and say, you see, you were right. These kids are ESN, having made sure that they get less facilities, less teaching equipment, having, in short, actually engineered the environment for failure.
It took 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, they said, it's all true. I think we should use it in teachers' colleges with it as recommended reading and use it in schools of education.
In one sense, the whole thing has moved full circle, and the concerns we used to have about ESN are still very much with us now in terms of the number of black children being put into pupil referral units. Nobody could convince me that that continuous level of poor attainment or underachievement or whatever has got to do with the intellectual capabilities of those young people. It's got nothing at all to do with that. It would be unnatural if it did. So therefore, the question is, what is it about the structural arrangements to do with schooling that continues to lead to the situation that we have right now? And that is a fundamental question.